Hello everybody, I'm Mischief. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing something a bit different. I'm going to be talking about the entire storyline of Nazi zombies, basically just a recap of all the Black Ops zombies slash Black Ops 2 zombies slash Nazi zombies, the entire storyline from the maps to the radios that tell you the story, as well as the use of the internet, which is a great thing because some people don't know there's actually a quite amazing story behind all of zombies. And yeah, I'm just going to go over the entire story, and then I'm going to kind of talk about Black Ops 2 a little bit, because the story kind of strays in Black Ops 2, and in my opinion, is not really done well at all. So I guess I'll just start from the very beginning, where, so there's this group called Group 935, which eventually, you know, was the four main characters, Richtofen, Nikolai, Takeo, and Dempsey, and it was, at the time, it was an independent group during World War II, and basically what they were trying to do is create an army of super soldiers, as well as new technology and weapons and stuff for the German government. And their project was called Der Riese, or in English that means the Giant. The leader of Group 935 was Dr. Ludvig Maxis, and his main assistant was Dr. Richtofen, which is one of the main characters in most of the maps that you can play. So basically what they did is they use this thing called Element 115, which is basically just a fictional element that has crazy powers that could do tons of stuff. It's incredibly important in the storyline of zombies. He tried to use it to make soldiers who could regenerate cells. So essentially, if a soldier got shot or stabbed or something like that, they could be able to heal really quickly instead of having to like go to a hospital or something. So but instead he ended up making the zombies that you see in Nazi zombies. They started testing on wounded people and dead people, and 115 would cause them to come back to life, which would be good for what they were doing, but when they came back to life as the zombies, they were uncontrollable. So many test subjects were killed, brought back to life with 115, and then shot again, died. So that's where the zombies come from in the storyline. And yeah, Element 115 apparently is in a bunch of random places found around and starts turning corpses into zombies, which is why there seems to be zombies everywhere, but there's another reason which we'll get into in a little bit. So, while Dr. Maxis was accidentally creating these zombies, Dr. Richtofen was testing 115 on living subjects to try and mind control them, as well as just make them generally better. He wasn't working on the whole regeneration thing. So he had three main test subjects, Takeo Masaki, Nikolai Belinsky, and then an unknown Mexican man who we don't really know much about. He wanted to test three different races to see the different kind of reactions they had to Element 115, because he believes that Element 115 would react differently to people of different races. So basically what he tried to do before he started the actual testing of 115 is try to gain complete control over the test subjects by essentially, he thought there was a part in your brain that kind of gives you self-control. So as long as you have this part of your brain, you can think for yourself. So he took the unknown Mexican man and tried to cut this out of his brain, and it ended up killing him. So that's why we don't really know much about him, because he really isn't the storyline for very long. So shortly after the Mexican man died, they found an American spy in Group 935 named Peter McCain. So because they were cruel, they left him to die in a nearby insane asylum, which also doubled as a morgue. When the Americans, like the people who sent Peter to spy on 935, they discovered that they lost contact with him, they decided to go on a rescue mission. Group 935 intercepted the rescue mission and killed everyone in the rescue mission except for one person, Tank Dempsey, which is the main character you know in zombies, and Richtofen captured him to replace the Mexican in his testing. So once he figured that he couldn't accurately completely control his test subjects, he just decided to go ahead and test 115 on them, and it did, as he suspected, affect their minds differently. Since the subjects weren't exactly willing to cooperate, Richtofen would torture them a lot, especially Dempsey. He tortured him a lot because Dempsey was a spy and a Marine, and he was not willing to go down, but he ended up getting the testing done, and what happened was it made Dempsey extremely aggressive. You can see that in the quotes from the game. Dempsey is very aggressive and wants to fight and stuff. Takeo only recites Japanese proverbs, which in the actual games you do hear him talk, but that's only so that anyone who plays as Takeo isn't bored out of their mind. So as far as the storyline goes, he pretty much doesn't talk, or isn't supposed to. And Nikolai becomes functionless without vodka, so he wasn't always a vodka drunkard. That's part of the 115 testing. And to something that would be great for Richtofen is that all of their recent memories were wiped, so all the torturing and capturing they don't really remember, so they kind of just follow Richtofen and do what he says because they believe he's good and like their friend and stuff. But yeah, Maxis was trying to get teleporters created with 115 as well, while Richtofen was working on his subjects. And Maxis couldn't create anything that worked. Every time he would try to test out his teleporters, it would just destroy everything and leave it as dust, and it wouldn't send it to the mainframe. It would just basically destroy or break anything that went through it. They never tested anything living because obviously it'd be very dangerous. And while Richtofen was working on his super soldiers, which is Takeo, Dempsey, and Nikolai, he saw that Maxis was pretty much doing a really bad job, and he figured he could do a better job, so he tried to make his own teleporter with his assistant, Dr. Sheuster. So behind Maxis's back, they actually made a working teleporter and were able to teleport a walnut. So not very impressive, but of course, very quickly they were able to do much better than Maxis ever could, because throughout the storyline you can clearly see that Richtofen is a much better scientist than Maxis is and able to accomplish a lot more. But Maxis somehow finds out that they were doing this work behind their back, and he immediately gets mad at Richtofen for not working on his project, which were the super soldiers. He acts out of jealousy as he tells Richtofen that teleporting a nut wasn't that successful, and he doesn't even take his design because he wants to kind of prove he can do it himself. So I think he actually breaks the teleporter that Richtofen had, or tries to disable it, and then kind of leaves and tells him to go work back on his own project. And at this point, he also told Richtofen that he was going to make a deal with the Nazi party, the Nazis in Germany, because previous it was just the German government, like another party of the German government, but since the Nazis come to power, because at this point it's during World War II, he decides to make a deal with the Nazi party to basically sell them weapons for money, because they obviously need funds for the program, and the Nazis are the government in Germany now. So Group 935 was planning to create wonder weapons using element 115 to sell to the government as, like, as the name suggests, they're wonder weapons, amazing weapons, which includes like the ray gun, the wonder waffle, and any gun that would be pack-a-punch that you can find in game. Of course, in the storyline, the pack-a-punch and the perks aren't exactly realistic. It's just more for the game. So as far as the storyline goes, they would just kind of, I don't know, expose weapons to 115 or do something whatever with it, and it would pack-a-punch the weapons, I guess, and they would obviously make new weapons. So Maxis received plans from Shinonuma, which was one of their bases in Japan, and with these plans from some Japanese Group 935 members, he created the world's first wonder weapon, which was the ray gun. But around the same time, Richtofen, without any other help or plans except for kind of the work from Sheuster's assistant, like building what he did, Richtofen created the monkey bombs as well as the Wunderwaffe DG2. So again, this shows Richtofen is much quicker. He built this from his own mind, and he did 2 wonder weapons where Maxis only built 1. So you can clearly see Richtofen is better than Maxis at inventing stuff and creating stuff. And Maxis was promising to basically mass produce the Wunderwaffe DG2 to the Nazis so they could use it to fight in war, and obviously if this was real it would be an incredible advantage, but he fell in love with his assistant Sophia, and this basically caused him to stop doing much work, and he was just trying to impress her and stuff like that, so he didn't end up getting anywhere with the DG2s. He didn't really make any. He really didn't get anywhere, and Richtofen was getting really angry at him because he wasn't running Group 935 well, and he wasn't allowing Richtofen to do well in his teleporter. So at this point, he kind of started a plan to eventually overthrow Maxis and take Group 935 for himself and take control so he could run it correctly, or like the way he wanted to. So he continuously worked on his teleporter tests with his assistant Sheuster behind Maxis's back, even though Maxis has already found out. Eventually they were able to create a more stable teleporter that they believed would be able to teleport people, and Richtofen decided to test himself and became the first person to be teleported, but he wasn't teleported where they planned to go, which is from the main teleporter to the mainframe, which you can see in Keynote Untoten as well as the map Dries. The mainframe is the little pad that you end up in, and the main teleporter is where you start at. So he didn't go to the mainframe. He was teleported to a little kind of cave, and he saw this strange looking pyramid, which is called the MPD. I don't exactly know what that stands for, but it's the pyramid or the MPD. He believed it was made by the aliens. No idea how he figured that out. He also realized that, again, I don't know how he realized this, because it was in like a cave in the rock, that where he was on the moon. So yeah, he decided to touch the pyramid, and he got teleported somewhere else, and it kind of messed with his mind. He started hearing voices and stuff. So at this point, he was teleported to a jungle, which we know is Shangri-La, and then later he got teleported to Call of the Dead, that area, and then back to Dries, which was where Group 935 is located, because that's the Project Dries the Giant. You don't really know exactly how all of this happened or what exactly happened on Richtofen's kind of journey, but he collected some stuff along the way, because I think the whispers in his head kind of told him what to do. That's the only thing I could really think of. So he collected him some stuff for a plan he was having, and Dr. Sheuster was basically lying to Maxis about what happened to Richtofen, and was ready to destroy the teleporter and just hide the evidence. Figured Richtofen had died, but Richtofen returned just in time and basically said, "We have work to do," and didn't really explain much. Richtofen seemed more crazy than usual, and you can see that later in the maps. A lot of the quotes, Richtofen's very crazy, just in general. And Sheuster notices this, but he kind of doesn't bring it up. Richtofen wouldn't tell anyone what happened. He went along with kind of their lie. And yeah, so Dr. Sheuster and another doctor, who's not really important, Dr. Groph, they get teleported to the moon where Richtofen saw the MPD, and they kind of built a base around there, and what they're trying to do is figure out how to open the pyramid, because the whispers told Richtofen that it's great, and that's what his main plan was. You don't really find out until much later, or I guess a little bit later, what the pyramid is actually for. So yeah, one day Sheuster killed a rat on the moon, and he saw its soul get absorbed into a glass vial on the MPD. So they figured the pyramid required sacrifices of souls. So basically Richtofen would take captives and then gullible people from 935, send them to the moon, and have them killed by Groph and Sheuster to try and fill up the MPD with souls. And Maxis is far too distracted with his now girlfriend Sophia as assistant, so he really doesn't have much time to pay attention to Richtofen, because yeah, at this point he's really not even doing anything with Group 935. He's just kind of pretending to get work done when he's really not doing anything. So at one point, Groph and Sheuster had the pyramid completely full, the vials full of souls, so he contacted Richtofen to basically tell him that the plan was done, and Richtofen told him that he was going to get rid of Dr. Maxis as well as his family, and then he would get to the moon as soon as he could. So I guess somewhere along the lines, Maxis is not really getting any work done on 935 as far as producing the DG2s and such, so he decides to go back to his old project of the teleporters, and in a kind of a desperate attempt, he tries to teleport his daughter Samantha. She's really important. He tries to teleport her dog Fluffy through the teleporter, but it failed, and he thought it was destroyed, but it actually became zombified, and that's where the hellhounds came from. So Samantha basically came running in the room and started asking her dad what was going on, because of course the dog, and little kids love their dog. Samantha's like 8 or 9 maybe, or younger, they're not exactly sure. But Richtofen at this point has locked them both in the room with the hellhound and the teleporter, and he teleports Maxis and Samantha and the hellhound, believing that because Maxis's teleporter was broken, he figured it would kill them, but it didn't kill them. Somehow it linked up to Richtofen's mainframe on the moon. So Samantha basically got scared. She had no idea what was going on, and she ran into the open pyramid, and it closed around her and sent her to another dimension, which is known as the Aether, and it basically in there, for whatever reason, allows the person control over the zombies. Richtofen basically heard what happened and was able to somehow contact them on the moon and told them to kill Maxis, because Maxis was on the moon base somehow. Samantha's yelling through the pyramid, trying to figure out what's going on, and Groph and Sheuster find Maxis, and they're about to kill Maxis when Maxis tells his daughter Samantha to kill them all, basically in revenge, and they kill Maxis, but supposedly his soul got sucked into the Aether still, because in Black Ops 2 you can still hear his voice from the Aether, so Maxis' soul becomes trapped in the Aether as well. But it's kind of weird in the Aether, people are like separated and stuff. You see that a lot in Ascension. But basically, Samantha is now angry at Richtofen and is sending the zombies after him, so instead of the zombies kind of being mindless things that are just attacking whatever, they are now basically going after Richtofen, which is why they're always attacking Richtofen. So he takes his group, his small group, which is him, Takeo, and Dempsey, and they retreat to Sheuster, because at this point they believe that the zombies that have been tested in Derice are going to go after them, so they figure if they go far enough away to Sheuster that they'll be safe. But the zombies are there too, and they realize that the zombies are going to follow them everywhere. So Richtofen tries to kind of recover some of the equipment that was still in Sheuster, and then he goes back to Derice, because they want to try and get like the Wunderwaffe and stuff like that, because Derice had a lot of good stuff, but they went back to Derice and that was abandoned and taken over by zombies as well. So it's kind of a recurring pattern that wherever this group goes, it's taken over by zombies because of Samantha's control. So that's pretty much all of the World at War maps. Verrucht was the Dempsey going to save Peter McCain. Originally, they didn't have voices, and they were just 4 Marines who were trying to save Peter McCain, but in the Black Ops version, they dubbed them with the voices of the main characters. So Richtofen, Takeo, and Dempsey weren't actually there. Richtofen did show up later, but as far as the part where they're fighting zombies, that is Dempsey and his group. Nacht or Untoten really does not play any part in this storyline, because at that point zombies wasn't intended to be a full thing of its own. Sheuster was Richtofen and his group going back to Sheuster and having the first main real attack by Samantha, so that was actually them. And then Derice is obviously them going back to Derice and finding it to be abandoned as well. So yeah, they somehow get from Germany to Japan and back to Germany. Some of this story is kind of far-fetched, but I still believe it's great. So yeah, he then went to one of the kind of prototype teleporters in a panic, and teleports to kind of wherever he thinks it's linked up to, just basically to escape the horde of zombies that's after him. And somehow it actually teleports them through time, which is the transition from World at War to Black Ops. So now, instead of being kind of the era of World War II, they're in the era of the Cold War. So they also find themselves in an abandoned German theater, which is Keynote or Toten, the map. So from what they can tell, the theater is where Maxis was going to reveal the teleporters to the Nazis, which is why there is kind of a film reel and teleporter there. And it was probably abandoned since Maxis was killed, so no plans came of it. So, yep. So Samantha is able to locate their group again after kind of that year of them being, a few years of them being gone, and zombies and Keynote or Toten are sent after them too. So at this point, Richtofen basically figures the only way he can stop Samantha and the everlasting horde of zombies following them is to continue with his original plan to get himself inside the MPD, but he needs to kind of recover some of the stuff that he lost when Samantha entered, because I guess every time you want to open the pyramid, you need to bring some items for it, as well as the souls. And since they can't return to Doris, because by this point, so many years later, it would be completely overrun by zombies, they decide to head to a Cosmodrome in the Soviet Union, where some important documents are held that Richtofen was storing there, so that he could relocate the objects he missed. And yep, so the main characters again somehow get to the Soviet Union and reach the Cosmodrome, which is Ascension. And at the beginning, they hear a man from the Aether who is Gersch and tells them to repair the mechanism, which is the Casimir mechanism. So there's a little bit of backstory about Gersch. There was this guy named Yuri Kravcheski, and he was transferred to work into sending monkeys at space from Ascension. And he was transferred by his superior, like his boss, Gersch, and he really didn't like Gersch. But while Yuri was working at Ascension, he saw Matryoshka dolls, which are like those little dolls, the bombs were like one wood doll inside another, and he sees the teddy bear, which is the key kind of symbol of Samantha, because Samantha was a little girl and she always had a teddy bear around her, which shows up in a lot of maps, in the box obviously, and other stuff. So Samantha drives Yuri insane, and he ends up finishing the Gersch device, which is a strange device that can work between dimensions, and it's very unstable, and he somehow lets zombies into Ascension through the Gersch device and traps Gersch himself somewhere in the Aether, and then Yuri is killed by the zombies at Ascension, and this is why Ascension is also overrun. So basically, Gersch talks to the characters in the Aether, tries to repair whatever the Casimir mechanism is, and somehow it releases Gersch from Samantha's grasp in the Aether, because again, it's weird in the Aether, so Gersch is being attacked by Samantha in the Aether, activating the Casimir mechanism somehow lets him go. And the characters are able to grab the documents, which are scattered in the jug/power building in the middle floor. They're just scattered all over the floor. The main storyline there is just of Gersch and Yuri, which is kind of a side story. There's another side story, which is the map 5, which is in the Pentagon. You see JFK, Robert McNarma, I don't know who that is, Fidel Castro, and Richard Nixon. They're kind of negotiating when, for whatever reason, zombies decide to attack them in the Pentagon. And there's only the 4 of them there left to basically defend themselves. And if you look in the the Easter egg of the 2 maps, they end up calling Ascension through the red telephones, and they're trying to talk to the main group. There's no real storyline about 5, but according to this storyline, you do hear the 4 dying to the zombies. So, yep, those people die to the zombies. So this Richtofen and his group, they're starting to regain their memories. Richtofen obviously didn't have his memory wiped, but Takeo is the first to remember, and he says that one day when they finish fighting the zombies, Richtofen will get what he deserves. And this is a quote, and I believe Call of the Dead or Ascension, I'm not sure which. So Takeo is the first to remember, and he also says that he believes Nikolai drinks vodka because he wishes to forget the past and can't function when he remembers it. and this also hints the fact that Nikolai is beyond hope, because the vodka is completely like destroying his memory, plus the 115 treatment. So Nikolai is not in good shape. Tank is also making progress on his memories. Tank Dempsey. He remembers that he'd seen Richtofen before the fight at Shinonuma, which anything before there was really Richtofen capturing him and torturing him. And yeah, Takeo notes that he believes Dempsey is finally remembering what Richtofen did to him. So at this point, the group is kind of hesitant to follow Richtofen, but they obviously have to survive the zombies. So Dempsey and Takeo are both kind of looking for a way to betray the doctor, Dr. Richtofen, as soon as they can. And Nikolai still kind of has no clue what's going on. Also another kind of side story is George A. Romero, a director, stumbled upon Group 935 Nazi documents while making a movie on World War II, and he took the cast to an abandoned lab in Siberia, and the crew was all zombified except for a few cast members: Sarah Michelle Gellar, Robert Englund, Danny Trejo, and Michael Rooker. This is where Call of the Dead is. And the main group, after getting out of Ascension, they go over, they use, I believe they use raw element 115 found in Ascension to teleport them, and somehow Richtofen gets it to where he wants to go, which is Call of the Dead. But because of the time difference from the teleport Royal Dead War to Black Ops, they get trapped behind a door, which was not there before, so Richtofen and the group is stuck in this steel door, which is the Easter egg of Call of the Dead. They ask the celebrities to help them to get the golden rod and escape the door because they can't get out. And for whatever reason, the celebrities do decide to help them. And in exchange, Richtofen gives them the DG2, the Wunderwaffe. So, yep. You really don't know what happens to the crew. There's no way you can tell. There's no radios of them dying. Most other minor characters like them end up dying, so I'm sure it's safe to assume that they either die or will reappear in a zombies map later, because this is the first kind of minor characters that you haven't seen just get killed off. So Richtofen and his group go to Shangri-La. You don't really know what country Shangri-La is. Probably not the Soviet Union, because it's cold up there. This is where Richtofen was before, obviously, as well as Call of the Dead, when the MPD sent him there. They find the Temple Houses, which was a mining facility filled with 115, which explains more zombies there. All these areas are kind of 935 areas related, which is why there's 115 there, and which is why there's also zombies there. So they're able to acquire the focusing stone from Shangri-La. So the focusing stone and golden rod are basically what you need to open up the pyramid. So Richtofen believes he is going to be able to open the MPD, so they travel to Area 51 in Nevada, which is in the United States, and they go to a moon teleporter, which was already there, and they teleport to the secret moon facility named Griffin Station. Area 51 is already overrun with zombies, so they have to quickly teleport to the moon, and they, through a series of events, are able to open the MPD, and they see Samantha Maxis suspended in the air, and her body had been cryogenically frozen, so her body is still actually in the pyramid, and her soul is obviously in the aether. And Richtofen powers up the golden rod with the focusing stone and fuses them together. He sees Dr. Maxis in the terminal, who tries to stop him, but doesn't succeed. This is kind of weird because we don't exactly know what's happened to Maxis at this point, if he's alive or if he's dead or what. I believe he's actually alive somehow, but he's also in the aether too, so it's kind of confusing. But anyway, Richtofen switches souls with Samantha and gains control of the zombies, which is why the zombies begin having blue eyes. So at this point, Samantha is inside of Richtofen's body, and Richtofen's soul is in the aether controlling the zombies. Richtofen basically thought he was going to be able to wipe out Samantha Maxis, Dr. Maxis, and the 3 test subjects who he really doesn't care about. But Dr. Maxis had a plan in case this ever happened, and they had basically nuclear missiles or regular missiles on the moon, which they send and blow up a huge portion of the Earth to try and reduce the amount of zombies. And it destroys a huge chunk of the Earth, which is why in maps like Tranzit and Die Rise, everything's completely destroyed. So this is where it left off at Black Ops. We all thought it was going to be a great storyline afterwards, but nothing really great happened. Nuketown was more just because everyone loved Nuketown. The storyline is pretty much CIA agents and CDC people are sent to investigate Nuketown. They encounter zombies and nukes from space, kill them all. Again, minor characters getting killed off. Then the story for Tranzit is literally 4 survivors of the nukes riding around on a futuristic bus trying to survive. There's no storyline there. Die Rise is a weird story. They kind of get teleported to China. I think it's kind of confusing, and there's no real storyline there other than the fact that they talk to Richtofen and Maxis in the Aether. We don't know what this plan is doing exactly yet. I'm sure there is some information on it, but there's no cold hard evidence on what's happening with the storyline there. I, to be honest, really didn't like Black Ops 2 zombies. Not nearly as much as Black Ops 1 zombies, but the storyline kind of didn't work out, as well as the fact that I don't care for the new characters, the Transit characters. The homeless man, the guy who sounds like a girl and is a germaphobe, the actual girl, and I think that's it. Yeah, that's probably it. I don't really care for them too much. So I was hoping that they would have done something better with Black Ops 2 Zombie storyline, and it doesn't look like Mob of the Dead is going to be too much either, so hopefully the final DLC goes back to the main characters or actually advances the storyline in a significant way, but we will see. I hope you guys found this useful, and hopefully I explained it as well as I could. I know I've probably missed a few things, like how the teddy bear in the box is Samantha's way of kind of taunting them, and the power-ups is Samantha's way of taunting them, stuff like that. Yeah, those are kind of just common things, though, you could infer. Like, yeah, that's pretty much it. The voice of the power-ups and the dogs is Samantha talking. And because, for some reason, because the dog was hers, she's able to teleport them anywhere. And the dog was actually pregnant when it was teleported, so it gave birth to many hellhounds. So, yeah. A lot of the stuff is there, obviously, for the game, like the guns on the wall is not anything to do with the storyline. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of explanation, learned some stuff about zombies. I know when I first read about the storyline, I thought it was amazing. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll try to answer them as best as I can. But that's about it for me. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.